Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here, and today we're talking about the 2024 World Championships, Regulation G format World Championships held in Honolulu, Hawaii, just finished this past weekend, won by Luca Cerebelli of Italy. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at Luca's teams. We're gonna look at the top 8 a little bit, look at some recent results. Question of the day: what was your favorite part of Worlds? For me, I really enjoyed watching Cybertron versus Sajin, and I really enjoyed watching Wolf versus Hirofumi. Those felt like really big time heavyweight matchups, so I really enjoyed watching those. Let me know what yours in the comment below, whether it was TCG, Go, or VGC, or whatever else you might have seen at Worlds. So yeah, we're gonna start with Luca Cerebelli's team. So congratulations to him on winning the World Championship. This is the pace that we have for him, the open team sheet, of course. We're gonna visit another pace that might give some more insight into this team as well. So he had a Terra Electric Miraidon, Electric Draco Meteor, Dazzling Gleam Volt Switch. We've seen most players using Miraidon opted for the Dazzling Gleam over the Discharge. I guess it just makes more sense because one, you're not hitting your teammates, and two, Terra Fairy gives you an immunity to Draco Meteor, so it gives you a little bit more board control, whereas Terra Electric, you kind of still get blown up by Draco, so it's very easy to click that button into you if the opponent is using Miraidon as well, right? Also, you dropped your ground weakness. Obviously Lando, which is like the primary Miraidon counter that was in this format, can you hit you with Sludge Bomb as well, but that's a 50-50, right? So you kind of control the outcome of that a little bit as well as much as your opponent does. I think a good addition to this core here of Hands, Forage, Whimsicott, Urshi, Miraidon is the Ogerpon Heartflame. Ogerpon Heartflame here gives you support and it gives you offense more than any other Ogerpon, I would say. I think like this gives you more offense than Water Pond and Rock Pond. I think those are the two offer a little bit more support, but this is a more balanced approach to it. I think Fire is a good defensive typing for this team. It resists the opposing Miraidon's Dazzles. This is good into Zamazenta. It's good into Calyrex. It's good into the Calyrex teams as we saw in finals. It's because you can Terra and resist the ice. You can Terra and hit the immunities on those teams as well for a lot of damage. You can OCO most of them. So it's just a really, really great addition to the team. And I think personally, this Mon is the glue that held this team together. I think without this Mon, I don't think he would have been able to win finals without the Ogerpon Heartflame. Urshifu Rapid Strike, very, very standard Urshifu. A lot of people did start going for Sash over Scarf. I think the Scarf set, generally is just a bit more predictable than people would like for Worlds. And not having the Protect can lead to really bad pin positions, I guess. So I think some people opted for this version of Urshifu instead of the speed, the very, very fast one with Scarf, especially because you have like Fake Out Surging Strikes, you have Tailwind Surging Strikes. So you have like options, whereas the Scarf version, you can only lock into one move, you can't switch moves, you can't like hit something with close combat or Surging Strikes and then like Aqua Jet to pick them up if you need for whatever reason. It gives you more ways to play around things. So I think that's why people went for the Sash over the Scarf. Iron Hands is back and he's world champion again. I can't remember if Iron Hands did much in finals, but I'm sure it helped out during the actual tournament, because Iron Hands is a great addition to this team. It gives you that opposite of the speed mode. If you don't want to deal with like speed ties or opposing Tailwind hyper offense, you can just easily go with the Tailwind mode, and Iron Hands you can go with the Trick Room mode, and Iron Hands on the Trick Room will give you a lot of offense along the helping hand, along with the helping hand for a draft. Because you get the terrain boost and you get the attack boost, and then you get like the helping hand boost. So this was a solve instead of Clear Amulet, which I think is a good call, right? Because with helping hand and the terrain boost, you have enough offense in your hands that you can deal with an Intimidate, and you can just Drain Punch and Incineroar and probably kill it with one shot with helping hand and the Quark Draft boost. So this is a Bug Hands. I think people go with Bug for a couple of reasons. The primary reason being that Bug is resistant to ground, right? Which is one of Iron Hand's big weaknesses. Again, the team is already has to do with the influx of Landorus, so you don't want to have to deal with that with all your Pokemon, right? Because Landorus hits this for super effective. Sludge Bomb also hits Fairy. It hits this for super effective at Terra. Sludge Bomb hits if it does it. It hits Whimsicott for super effective, right? So you kind of get the drift. So like you gotta have defensive Terras to deal with that. Terra Bug, like I said, is resistant to ground. Other Terras have a lot of weaknesses as well. For example, the Water Terra is immune to other hands, right? It's immune to Miraidons. The Fire Terra is weak to Kyogres. Yeah, it's weak to Kyogres. It's still weak to ground. You're still keeping that weakness. The Grass Terra is weak to like flying. It's still weak to poison. So it's weak to fire types. So is Bug, but like you kind of get the drift there. Bug while it's not a great typing, it just kind of gives you a lot of neutrals. So you kind of just get those immunities and just remain neutral to a lot of types. You also don't get hit by like Rillaboom really very well, which is always a good counter to some Miraidon teams, Rillabooms. So Rillaboom doesn't hit you very well at all once you Terra Bug. Actually, it just doesn't hit you at all. Wood Hammer just doesn't do enough damage. So I think that's why Terra Bug has picked up for hands a little bit. Also low kick. Low kick is a really important one. Low kick on the hands is a move that picked up because it, for most of the targets it's hitting, it's doing the same base power as close combat without any of the defensive drawbacks. So especially to all the restricteds, low kick is based on 20 because they're also heavy. One of the guys very standard Moonblast, Iron Core, Light Screen, Tailwind, very standard kind of set. Covert Cloak. Again, in a second, we're gonna look at a different pace that might give you some insight into the EVs. Terra Dark, probably for opposing prankster mons that might be faster. This also lets me know that the EVs on the spread we're looking at in a second might be pretty accurate. And the Refrigeraft, Terra Water, Psychic Noise, Electric Seed, so that you can get the boost. Psychic Noise, Foul Play for the Calyrex Ices, which gives this team a little bit of trouble. Trick Room for speed control with the hands. Psychic Noise for psychic damage into like a Moongas and stuff. So over here on Twitter, a player by Aruga goes by on Twitter, Arubega Poke posted a Poke Paste of the same archetype, right? With their own spreads that they use. So so Luca here mentions it's fascinating how slow Miraidon secretly popularized over the last few days. I ran the same spread as Mr. Arubega, barring he had 8 EVs, taken out a special attack and added them to Spit Def. So, and then not 252 timid like a lot of the ones he expected to play were. So this is the paste and the Whimsicott here. So this is also a Cloak Whimsicott with Terra Water instead. Same moves though. 36 speed timid. Lots of special bulk, lots of HP. So very bulky Whimsicott, so you can get off more tailwinds, more encores, especially through Light Screen. Light Screen with this much for def and HP is gonna live a lot of those special hits. Also makes me believe that Luca also ran a pretty slow Whimsicott. The one he focused on though was the slow Miraidon. It's a modest nature, with 204 speed, and he mentioned that he had 244 per attack and added more to Spit Def. So he has a little bit of HP and a little bit of Spit Def, a little bit of bulk basically, not as much speed, and then max special attack. And he goes on to explain the main reason was everyone was playing timid, so there's no reason to run 252 modest, which makes sense, right? If you're already planning on getting outsped by every other Miraidon you see, there's no real point in running the max speed modest because you're not going to run into opposing modest is what your goal is. You're running into timids anyway, so you just run enough speeds to outspeed. In this thread he mentioned Impish max speed, where is it at? Zamazenta, there we go. Impish max speed Zamazentas. So enough speed to outspeed that and the rest into attack in bulk. And yeah, I think he did end up playing some other modest Miraidons, which is not what he expected. But obviously it worked out for him because he won the World Championships. I think that's a good like behind the scenes kind of thing that the players have he let us into, is that he did not run a max speed modest Miraidon. They didn't even run a timid one, just went a little bit of extra bulk and max special attack. Every Sash Urshi is going to be 252, whether it's Adamant or Jolly is their choice. Most likely Adamant just for the damage. Since you have the Sash, you want to get as much off as you can with that as possible. This EV spread here mentions it just has a lot of bulk. And not a lot of speed in the Yogapon, which I think is a common kind of trope for that thing. It's a bold 236, 164 Frigirath. So we don't know if these other EVs are the exact same, but looking at the Miraidon being very similar and the items and stuff being similar, I would not be surprised if overall the EVs were similar, even if they're not the exact same. So that's the championship team. The top 8, we'll look at the top 8 teams here. The top 8 was dominated by Miraidons and Calyrex, because out of the top 8 teams, 3 were Calyrex Ice and 3 were Miraidons. 1 Zamazenta made it, and wait, am I miscounting? Oh, 1 Terapagos. 1 Terapagos made it. So Miraidon, if you're just counting just the top 8 and not counting everything else, it won 30k, 45k, $55,000 in the top 8. Cali Ice won 20k, 10k is 30k, 40k. Zamazenta, Michael Kelch, Michael Derbest, shout out to him sticking with Zamazenta. He got in 3rd in Worlds based on I guess record and resistance. So he got top 4 though. And also Sung Jae Jung also got 15k with his Miraidon. So shout out to him. Shout out to the top 4. Shout out to the top 8. Shout out to all the competitors who did well at Worlds, by the way. Shout out to everyone who just qualified, honestly, because you're all great players. Shout out to my boy NJ. That's my dog, top 8 in worlds. With the team he let me use on the channel before. You guys remember the Miraidon Alecki stuff? Miraidon, not Miraidon Alecki. Alecki Landorus team with Calyrex, Ice, and Ogerpon Cornerstone. He let me use it on the channel. Shout out to NJ for giving me the scoop before anybody else. I appreciate that, my boy. But yeah, so that's the team that won. The team that came in second place actually had a pretty big matchup advantage according to most people into the first place team. I think where Yuta went wrong in finals was he kept bringing the Pelipper. I think like he brought it to 2 out of 3 matches. I know in the first match he brought Pelipper, and the issue with that was he had Pelipper plus Lando. I think the Lando had Sandsear Storm, right? Yes, it did. So Pelipper helps you hit the Sandsear Storm. It also protects Calyrex, right? Pelipper, Ursh, Calyrex has been an Archetype since the beginning of the restricted format. So you can hit your Sandsear Storms with this, right? On turn 1, he went Terra Ghost, I believe, and clicked Sludge Bomb. Yeah, he used Terra Ghost and clicked Sludge Bomb into the Miraidon, calling a Terra Fury on turn 1, frame 1 of the finals of Worlds. Luca just switched out. He didn't want to play those 50-50 games. So shout out to Iron Hands. And then Urshifu was also on the field. So in rain, he gave up the Landers on turn 1. That game was instantly over. Once the Lando dropped, he had nothing else to hit like these Pokemon with, without like a lot of speed control. He'd be like forced to get Trick Room up and try to play it from there. It was really, really difficult though. He did win game 2, and then in game 3, he couldn't deal with the Ogerpon. Yeah. And even in rain, the Ogerpon terrored and killed the Amoonguss. So it actually did not matter that the rain was coming. So I think Pelipper was the weak link of the finals, to be honest, even though Pelipper's been an awesome mon in this format. Michael Kelch's team, he had the Entei, which was it Choice Band or AV? It was Bandit Entei. Goggles Urshifu with Substitute was pretty interesting. Zamazenso, Body Press, Heavy Slam, Wagger, very standard set. Very standard for the Rillaboom, very standard for the Chimpao, Moonblast, Icy Wind. So at Worlds, what you'll see is that a lot of people will play a lot of their standard teams. They'll add small text here and there, such as like the Miraidon EVs, for example, or Bug Hands, but they won't deviate that hard because it's the World Championships, right? It's not really the time to use like these weird, strange fringe Pokemon. Like you'll find some in Worlds, but like those players definitely also practice with those for months before Worlds, right? So like, don't think anyone's ever coming in here with a gimmick trying to make it through. They're coming with a very, very well practiced Pokemon, very well practiced team. Fourth place team, like we said, Song Jae Jung, identical team to Lucas as far as the Mons are concerned. Diego Ferreira had a really great one. I think he went 8-0 on day 1. Diego did kind of with this like hard Trick Room team. Shout out to him, even though I'm not a fan of the hard Trick Room squads. Zhang Chen Yu, I apologize if I'm saying any of these names incorrectly because obviously these are all foreign. Goldango, top 8 worlds. Goldango never dies, baby. Goldango top 8 worlds. Even Dondozo also top 8 worlds. But I know a lot of us were like rooting against Dozo. We didn't want it to win. And then NJ, like we mentioned, with his team that he let me use. Terabagos did sneak into the top 8 and it came in 9th place. Terabagos was the restricted, I believe, in the least coming into the tournament. And just like scrolling down, you see before we get to another Terabagos, right? It's down to like outside the top 25. But then it has 2 placements. And then again, you know, down here. So it's a couple Terabagos, but then you go further down, then it starts to disappear more and more and more. So like, it just didn't, I don't think it did that great. We'll check out the user stats in a minute. What we see that's not in the top 8, Calyrex-Shadow. The reason I think Calyrex-Shadow didn't top 8 the tournament was essentially like the mirror is a little bit too volatile. Yeah, the mirror is just too volatile, right? Because like, look at just 10 and 11, for example, right? The team is going to be very similar. It's going to have a Redirector, Fake Out Guys, Urshifu, Raging Bolt. Then it comes down to like, if you're using Calm Mind or Nasty Plot, it's going to come down to what Terra you're running. It's going to come down to your speed tier. There's so much volatility in the mirror that it's just, I just don't think that it's just, I don't think it was essentially worth it for most players because it didn't top cut the event, right? I think it was just, it's too, and it also, you can focus in on it so much because the rest of the team is a team that is like very balance heavy, right? So most players know how to play against balance at the World Championship level. So they kind of key in on the Shadow Rider as far as countering it, right? Because like, if you look at the team right above it, it's pretty much the same kind of balance team here, except the Terabagos has a distinct advantage into Calyrex-Shadow Rider. So if you guys are running the very similar balance team and this Pokemon has a distinct advantage to this one, you're probably gonna, your overall team advantage is just higher. Also, I think that Calyrex-Shadow will dominate double restrictors though. and we'll get to that when we get there at some point in the next season. I think when it has a heavy duty restricted next to it that covers its weaknesses better than the standard Pokemon do, I think it'll do a whole lot better. So I actually want to go over to the usage stats, which should be over here somewhere. Urshifu was the #1 used Pokemon in the entire tournament, and not like just Urshifu's combined, just straight Rapid Strike. Sash Rapid Strike, which is really strong. Rapid Strike is just really strong overall. What's surprising is Rillaboom was second. And remember when I told you guys all the videos where I said Raging Bullet's gonna jump into that top 3, top 4. Raging Bullet's gonna jump into that top 3, top 4. And look at that. Raging Bolt, 33%, third most used Pokemon in the entire tournament. What's surprising is that Farigiraf is 4th. The reason I think Farigiraf is 4th, I think that one, it just has a really positive matchup into like everything, right? Into the 2 fake outers, obviously it blocks that. With the Electric Seed, it has a really good just defense stat overall. It's just so bulky and hard to deal with. With Foul Play, you hit both the top restricteds for super effective damage. I think in Seniors Finals, there was a Terra Dark Foul Play that hit a Calyrex-Shadow one time and it just dropped, which was actually kind of insane. Incineroar is the 5th most used Pokemon of the standard Pokemon and of the tournament. Obviously top 5 is nothing to sneeze at, but it was surprising that it wasn't like top 3. Hands being 4th is surprising to most people, but not to me, because I just knew Iron Hands was being like underrated once Insane came back. I thought Iron Hands was still just as good. Ogre Heartflame jumping up means a lot of people tried to check it in for their teams, but they weren't the only ones. 20% usage is really high. Flutter down at 6th is interesting because, you know, we're so used to seeing Flutter much higher, but Flutter did do well. It just didn't do well enough. Chiyu being this high is actually insane to me. Not because it's a bad Pokemon, but I just don't know if I'd want to come to the World Championships and click Chiyu's Heat Waves and Overheats. I couldn't risk that much money on that. I just don't have the guts. Pokemon had 2 spots in the top 12, which is really nice for it. Whimsicott makes perfect sense, and Amoonguss is always going to be on these drafts because it's one of the best Pokemon of all time. The restricted list is actually very unsurprising as well. Calyrex-Shadow being the #1 used at day 2 makes sense. It's just the Pokemon that people are going to just run the most. But obviously it didn't have the top end results as the other ones did. Calyrex Ice Rider being #2 makes sense, and realistically 23.58 to 22.64. Basically they both are #1 used, but Calyrex-Shadow had way better top end results. Miraidon basically outdid its usage, right? Because 16% is not like the highest in the world, 3rd most of course, but it got 3 in top 8, so that matters a lot, right? So Miraidon kind of crowned itself as easily one of the best restricteds of the entire format, if not one of the top 2. You probably have to just consider it better than Calyrex-Shadow, right? Because its top end results are just better overall. Zamazenta cemented itself to me by getting top 8 in this tournament, and by winning that special event, both done by Michael Kelch, but so it could just be the player, but but still it cemented itself as one of like the 5 probably best restricted, most consistent in the format. Tropicos being this high was a bit shocking to me because I think it's the most fair restricted. It doesn't hit that hard without a couple of boosts or choice specs. It has a really good ability that lasts for like 1 turn, and then otherwise it gets hit for a lot of damage from like fighting types. But it did have the 5th most usage, and it did come in top 8, and it did hit 9th place. So like it did all right enough that you kind of have to respect it. The Weather Setters were naturally going to be the next highest because Weather is just really strong as an arch type, but none of them did like so great that they could even like challenge the top 4 in my opinion. But shout out to my boy Lorenzo, who got his day 2 in Worlds. First time competing in World Championships, and he day 2 using Kyogre. So shout out to the dog for that. That's my boy right there, one of the best players I know. And then the Sunsetters basically are the Sunsetters. Anyway, I've been recording for some time. If you have any questions about any more of my opinions on the World Championships, let me know. I will gladly answer in the comments for you guys, but you got to comment so I can know. Otherwise, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Click like for your boy. Subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.